show as I'm here as I'm your host Diamond of Diamonds Plus Gaming, as we are finally here to the stage of this tournament, which is the round of 16, or otherwise known in some other tournaments, the Sweet 16. So as you can see, the group stages are completed, done. Everybody has three all next to their games, so the group stage is done, and then we will reveal the bracket of who is going to be moving on very soon. But just to go over a quick recap of what happened in each group, but so far these are the teams that are in right now, which is Russia and Uruguay. Comes out of Group A. Group B, Spain and Portugal. Group C, Denmark and Australia. Group D, Iceland and Croatia at their end. Group E, Brazil and Switzerland. Group F, Germany and Sweden. And then Group G, Panama and England, as they make their way in with 1 win and 2 draws. And then Colombia comes out of Group H. Colombia and Senegal make the round of the final 16. Well, actually, the final 16 teams are right here in Group G, as we finished those games yesterday. So as we do a quick recap of the group stages, Group A started off with Russia and Saudi Arabia, and Russia took 2 goals from Smolov, as Russia ended up winning 2-0 over Saudi Arabia. And then Egypt pulling the big upset over Uruguay 1-0, as Salah took a nice pass from Said and scored the goal to put him up 1-0, and Egypt held on the rest of the way in that game. That Russia and Egypt battled in the second stage of the group, and Russia scored late thanks to Smolov once again, as he was able to punch in a late goal just at the 90th minute mark, and then they hung on to defeat Egypt 1-0 to take 6 points in the group. And then Uruguay recovered nicely, winning 2-0 over Saudi Arabia. Then in the third and final group stage of Group A, Egypt and Saudi Arabia drew dead even in their game, 0-0, and then Uruguay pulled the big upset of Russia, scoring very late into extra time, as they were able to defeat Russia and tie for first place, tie the group stage with 6 points. And they ended exactly 3 goals to 1 allowed for both sides, but Russia still took the number 1 spot in Group A. So Uruguay right behind them also with 6 points, and Egypt going 1 win, 1 loss, 1 draw. Sorry. 1 win, 1 loss, 1 draw, getting 4 points in the group. And then Saudi Arabia with 2 losses were mathematically eliminated, but they did end up getting the draw in the third and final game, in which they earned 1 point. So Russia and Uruguay moving on to the round of 16, Group A. Then Group B, Spain and Portugal, as Spain ended up taking the stage rather well, 3-0. So Morocco and Iran met in the first game of the group, and they drew dead even with each other, no scoring in that game, and they both earned a point in the tournament. Then Spain took on Portugal. Cristiano Ronaldo against Costa and Silva and the rest of the other guys. Spain ended up winning that one 2-1 to take the early 3 points in the tournament. Then Portugal recovered against Morocco as they won 3-0 thanks to Cristiano Ronaldo's 3 goals in that game, as he completed the hat trick. And then Spain defeated Iran 1-0 to take 3 more points to make it 6. And then Spain completed the sweep of the group, winning 3-0 over Morocco, and Portugal defeating Iran 2-0 in their third and final group stage game. So Spain with 9 points, Portugal with 6, and then Iran and Morocco both with a point. They each got a draw in the group, but both lost 2 games and did not score any goals in the stage, and neither did Saudi Arabia. Through their 1 draw and 2 losses in Group A, they did not score any goals either. So that brings our total to 3 teams that did not score any goals in their group stages so far. Denmark, Australia, France, and Peru. France was the big favorite coming out of Group C, and just how things would turn out. Well, it did not turn out well for them, as they ended up losing 1-0 to Australia in a very big time upset there. And then Denmark defeating Peru 2-1 in their game. And then Denmark defeating Australia 3-0 in their second stage group game. And then France recovered, winning 2-1 over Peru. So that led to a very interesting third and final group stage battle. And Australia and Peru drew dead even in their game, 0-0, as they both earned a point because of that. And then Denmark, France scored early in their game, but then Denmark recovered and scored 2 times unanswered goals, 2 unanswered goals, as they ended up winning the group outright 2-1, as they defeated France, knocking France completely out of the picture of the round of 16. So 9 points for Denmark with their 3 wins. Australia going 1-1-1 to earn 4 points, even though their scoring was, their stat line was 1 goal scored and 3 allowed. Probably the ugliest stat in the group stage. And then France with 1 win, 2 losses, 3 points in that, but they finished in third place. And then Peru finishing with 1 draw and 2 losses to earn a point in the group stage. So Denmark and Australia move on to the round 16. Then in Group D, Iceland, Croatia, Nigeria, and Argentina. Argentina was the big favorite coming out of this thing, and so was Croatia. But Iceland pulled the big timer in the beginning, as Argentina took the early 1-0 lead on a nice goal, and from somebody other than Lionel Messi. I think it was Suarez that scored the opening goal. And then later on in the game, Iceland tied it up 1-1, and then they started got the ball on a turnover, started attacking, and a nice save by the goaltender for Argentina, but deflected it right to an Iceland teammate. He knocked it in, and then Iceland hung on 2-1 over Argentina. And then Nigeria and Croatia drew dead even in their game, 0-0, so they both earned a point because of that. But then the next stage, Croatia defeated Argentina 2-1, so that effectively knocked Argentina out of moving on to Sweet 16. And then Nigeria defeated Iceland 1-0, as they scored in the 90th minute to steal a win there from Iceland. And so Iceland came down to Iceland and Croatia, and Iceland took a header late in the game. Yes, they lost to Nigeria in the extra time of the 90th minute. This time Iceland was able to turn the tables on Croatia, winning that one 1-0, and effectively knocking Croatia, who was leading the group at that time, knocking them down to third. And then all Nigeria needed to do was either draw or win to move on to the next round. Argentina put a little cramp in that style, as they won that game, the last game, 1-0, effectively then shifting Croatia to finish in second place in the group stage with 4 points, as both teams, both Nigeria and Croatia, both finished with 1 win, 1 loss, 1 draw, but a goal difference of 1 between the two, and that's why Nigeria finds themselves on the out of this whole thing, as Argentina finishes 1 win, 2 losses in the tournament for only 3 points. So quite, I would say, probably not the way they wanted to finish in that end. So Group E, Brazil, Switzerland, Costa Rica, and Serbia in Group E. And it started out with Serbia and Costa Rica, and they both drew dead even in their first game, as 0-0, while Brazil rolled over Switzerland 3-0, no doubter in that game. And then in the second stage of the group, Brazil winning 3-0 over Costa Rica, as Costa Rica just had no answer for the Brazilian attack. And then the Swiss defeated Serbia 1-0 in their ball game to get a nice win there, nice recovery there. And then Brazil defeated Serbia 4-0. Serbia was already out of it by this point, but they defeated Serbia 4-0. And then the Swiss, Costa Rica needed something. They both Serbia and Costa Rica came in with a point and needing a win to get an added 3 points and 4 points to finish the group stage. But Switzerland proved to be a bit more challenging as they won the game 2-0 to effectively finish in second place with 6 points, 2 wins, 1 loss in the group. And Costa Rica with a draw. Both teams, Costa Rica and Serbia, both finished with a draw and 2 losses for 1 point. And 2 more teams that did not score a single goal in the group stage, as so that brings our total to 5 teams now that were effectively eliminated without scoring any goals, but they still earned a point for the fact that they had 0-0 draws in their games. So unbelievable. So Brazil and Switzerland moving on to round 16. And then Group F, very interesting. Group D and Group F were highly entertaining to watch, as Germany, Sweden, Mexico, Korea Republic started it out with Germany and Mexico. Germany, I tell you, they took the early lead, took a nice lead, 2-0 lead on Mexico. Looked like everything was looking good, and then Mexico scored twice in the second half to tie the game 2-2, and that's how the game ended. Germany had their shots, but just could not, get the ball to go in, as they ended up drawing dead even with Mexico 2-2. So that's a point for both teams in that game. Then Sweden defeated Korea 2-1 in their first round, their first game of the Group F stage. And then the second stage, Mexico and Korea drew dead even 1-1 in their game, while Germany rebounded well from the draw with Mexico to defeat Sweden 2-0 in their ball game. So as it came down to this, it was Sweden. It was either going to be Sweden moving on, Mexico maybe getting a win at this point with 2 draws. It was going to be quite a interesting fact if they were able to move on to the next round. And Germany defeated Korea 2-0 in their third stage game to take the lead in the group, and then Sweden won their game 3-0 over Mexico, as the group stage ended with Germany on top with 1 point, 7 points, 2 wins, 1 draw for 7 points, and Sweden 2 wins, 1 loss for 6 points, and then Mexico 2 draws, 1 loss for 2 points, and then Korea finishing with 1 draw, 2 losses, and 1 point as they saw their tournament hopes dashed. I would say their hopes were dashed after the draw with Mexico, because then they, knowing that they were going to play Germany, that was going to be a tall task for them to win either way. And then Group G, so Germany and Sweden move on out of Group F to the round 16. And then in Group G, again, interesting. First timers, Panama, Iceland and Panama into the tournament, getting this far in the tournament. And Belgium and Panama, Belgium led by Romelu Lukaku against Panama and their scrappy bunch. Panama ended up pulling the big one over Belgium 2-0 in the first game of Group G. Then Tanzania and England drew dead even 1-1 in their first game of the Group G stage. Then in the next stage, Belgium and Tanzania drew dead even 0-0, And then the same thing with England and Panama. Both teams having absolute opportunities to get that first goal, but the goaltenders were just too good in these games. And England and Panama both drew dead even in their game, also 0-0, as everyone earned a point in that game. Of course, for Tanzania and England, it would be their second point of the tournament. And then England going in the third and final stage, everything was up for grabs at this point. England beating Belgium 3-1 as De Bruyne scored the opening goal for Belgium, and then England rebounded, tied the game, and then scored again before halftime, making it 2-1. Then they put in the absolute clincher in the end, winning 3-1 and getting the much needed points they needed after 2 draws in the tournament. It was going to be quite interesting to see what would happen with the draws and the points at that point. And then Panama defeating Tanzania 2-1 in a very exciting game on their end, as Panama ended up winning the stage 7-5, 2-1. With 2 wins, 1 draw for Panama, they move on to the Sweet 16. And then England, 1 win, 2 draws, no losses, with 5 points. And then Tanzania with 2 draws, 1 loss, 2 points. And then Belgium ends their tournament run with 1 draw, 2 losses, and a single point. And that was pretty much their offense too. They only scored, out of 3 games, they only scored 1 point. Gave up 5 in the tournament. So very tough thing there too, Group G. So Panama and England moving on to the next round of 16. Out of Group G then came Group H. Colombia, Senegal, Japan, and Poland. Poland was the favorite. Both them and Colombia were the favorites to come out of this group. Colombia, no problem with Japan in the beginning, winning 3-0 over Japan, and then Senegal pulling the upset over Poland. Poland did not score until the 90th minute on penalty kick, cutting the lead to 2-1. Then had a chance to tie, and then the shot went off the right post, and there went their shot at tying the game and maybe earning a point in the group stage. And then the next game of Group H, Japan and Senegal drew dead even in their game, 0-0, while Colombia defeated Poland 2-1, with Poland again scoring in the late stages of the game, 90th minute once again, but just could not garner enough offense to tie the game once again, as they lose back-to-back 2-1 games in the first 2 games of Group H. Then the third and final game put Japan and Poland against each other, and by this point Poland knew they were done, as Japan defeated them 2-0, and then Colombia defeated Senegal 2-0. Didn't really matter either way, because Senegal and Colombia had already clinched first and second place in the group stage. No matter what happened with Japan, Japan would have had to bypass Senegal goals in order for them to take second place. So even with the win, even with Senegal and Japan going 1-1-1 in the tournament with 4 points, Senegal still clinched second with those efforts. And then Poland, they scored 2 goals, gave up 6 though, but still finished the tournament 0-3 with 0 points. So that is your groups and what happened in the group stage games, as Colombia and Senegal clinched. Well, actually, it's Colombia and Senegal clinching the next to last 2 spots, and then Panama and England clinched the final 2 spots yesterday. So now comes the most exciting part of the thing. Now we've revealed the bracket, and here it is. The bracket is officially done, and these are the teams playing against each other in the round of 16. If you look on the left side, at the top left corner, Russia will take on Portugal. Denmark will take on Croatia, which should be quite an interesting game. Brazil and Sweden will go head-to-head against each other. And then Panama will do battle with Senegal. And here on the left side, Now, I do believe Russia and Portugal, it will be interesting to see what happens. But I do believe, we'll see, but I do believe Russia has enough to overtake Portugal to move them on to the next round in the quarterfinals. And then Denmark, Croatia, two teams that are very tough, play very well. Really a very close toss-up, but I'm going to go with Denmark to battle Russia in the quarterfinals. And then between the two, hard to say. Russia did have that hiccup against Uruguay. I'm going to go ahead and call the upset and call Denmark to move on to the semis over Russia. And then Brazil, Sweden, I think the road's pretty standard at this point. Brazil, I'm going to predict not only it's going to beat Sweden, Panama, Senegal. Senegal's speed may be just a bit too much for Panama. Congratulations, Panama, for making it to the round of 16, but I have a feeling this is about as far as you're going to get. So I'm going to call Senegal to beat Panama, and then, of course, the tall task would be to battle Brazil. But I think Brazil just has too many weapons, too many guns on that team, so they'll move on to the semifinals to battle Denmark. And then I'm going to project Brazil beating Denmark in the semis to make it to the finals at Luzhniki Stadium on the 15th of July to play for the World Cup trophy, a trophy that was denied to them 4 years ago when they lost to Germany in the semis. So we'll see what happens in this tournament and see how things may work out differently for them. But yeah, it'll be the left side of the bracket. It'll be interesting to see who will get there as the tournament goes on. But that is my prediction. Brazil all the way to the finals, beating Denmark in the semifinals in order to get to the finals of the World Cup. And then round 16, you got Spain and Uruguay going to battle each other. You have Spain and Uruguay, Iceland and Australia, Germany and Switzerland, Colombia taking on England, and the right side bracket of the round of 16, Spain and Uruguay. That is going to be a highly interesting battle between the two, but I think Spain is just going to be too much for Uruguay, so they will move on. My prediction is they'll move on to the quarterfinals. Iceland and Australia, both teams play hard. It could go into extra time between the two, but I'm going to go ahead and call Iceland for the win, as they'll take on Spain in the quarterfinals. And then Germany and Switzerland, I just don't like Switzerland's chances here. I mean, remember, they came out of the same division as Brazil, and they were blown out by Brazil in group stage. So I have a feeling Germany is probably going to do the same thing to Switzerland. So Germany is going to move on to quarterfinals. And then Colombia and England, it'll be quite a battle, but I don't know. We'll see. This is another game that could possibly go extra time, but I'm going to call for England to pull the upset over Colombia and move on against Germany. And then from the quarterfinals from there, Spain, I have a feeling if Iceland makes it to the quarterfinals, you know, they're feeding off that excitement of winning the group, but I just feel Spain's playmakers may be too much, so I'm going to call for Spain to make it to the semis, and then Germany and England in the quarters. Hard to say, you know, this game could go extra, but my prediction is Germany will move on over England, making it to the semifinals against Spain, and then you know, that's a game that could go either way. But I'm going to go ahead and call Spain in for the win, as they'll move on to the finals against Brazil for the World Cup. So that would leave your third place game as being Denmark against Germany for third place, which would take place before the finals of at Luzhniki Stadium. So Brazil against Spain for the finals. Those are my predictions of how I feel the brackets may go at this point. So we'll see what happens. Anything can happen in this tournament. Of course, remember, every matchup will be determined by the coin flip of who I will control in each match. And so it'll be interesting to see what does happen and who comes up with where on what. So, and I will be doing those live on the air. So hope everyone will join us for that very soon. So those are my predictions. Brazil against Spain for the World Cup Finals all the way to the end. So those are my predictions. So thank you once again for joining me this early morning, and feel free if you want to hear those predictions again, just go back to the mid portion of the video just to hear all those predictions one more time. Write them down if you have to and see if I'm correct. So we are here finally in the round of 16, Sweet 16 most tournaments will call it, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So until we are together again, I will see everybody very soon. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your Monday, and have yourself a great day.